Catherine Connelly is, of course, an entrepreneur, marketing leader, and author of the newly released book, Designing Success. Best known for co-founder of the Meat Group, a NASDAQ-listed company acquired for $500 million. Catherine began her entrepreneurial journey as young as 15 with My Yearbook, driven by a passion for connection and innovation. Beyond her professional achievements, Catherine is deeply committed to helping others design lives of purpose and balance. So her book actually does reflect her belief that success is a journey that is shaped most definitely by values, boundaries, and authenticity. Catherine is also a wonderful storyteller and mentor and inspires others to dream boldly and lead with intention. I love the concept of engineering serendipity. And I think that's kind of what we're speaking to here. And I just think these ideas feel so relevant, not just in our work life, most definitely do, but life is so fast paced now as well. It almost, the way you were describing it, we're actually like shutting doors the way that we're acting, and we're like, if we're being closed off, maybe intentionally, maybe unintentionally as well, but it could be affecting some possible doors that we can be able to walk through. From your point of view, what's one way to create serendipity in your life or your career?
One way is just to be open to connection. And this is something that you see, obviously coming from a background of dating apps. That's one of the things that most matter there too, is like you find dates because everyone's looking to date. So that's like a natural thing.
Yeah.
If you're looking for serendipity and to make more connections, then you can't be closed off to the world. So for instance, you're taking a flight and you have your AirPods in and you're just like ignoring the person next to you, then you're automatically not going to have a conversation with that person. You're not going to find out anything about their background. You're not going to find out that, hey, you actually went to the same college and you have all this in common. And now, maybe, common ground to talk about. You basically lose that aspect of just connecting with people. And so one is just being open to connecting and finding opportunities to do it. And so for an introverted person, that might mean you have like the scaffolding to help you support that. So maybe creating roles. Like one of my friends, she's a partner in a law firm. And when she is introverted, she would much rather at night be home in her jammies and watching a movie. That's what she would prefer to do. But she needs to get new clients and she needs to, do that aspects of her role. And so she always makes a goal when she's at these events, and they're always like good events, like good food and stuff. She likes that aspect of it because she knows she won't otherwise like connecting with people. She makes a list beforehand. She does the preparation beforehand of the people she wants to make sure she meets. Then she makes sure to ask them about something, to basically talk to them something about something in their life, to talk to them about something in work. And if neither of those can be followed up via email, talk to them about something that could be followed up via email, because that way she does her thing, she meets the people, and then she finishes her checklist and she can go home. And she likes the checklist, but she doesn't like the actual, the networking aspect of it. Because, a lot of people can find networking very icky.
Yeah.
And the reason that, and then there's, research at the University of Toronto, the reason people generally find networking icky is because you don't really realize what you bring to the conversation. In the same way, I guess, of the liking gap, especially in situations where you're less advanced in your career, you don't realize what you have to bring. And I kind of realized this gap, like, you can generally always be able to help someone. And I realized this when I was I went to Wharton, and in one of my classes, Total Leadership, what the professor has you do is you have to write out something that you need help with. And then other people in the class have to help you with that. And what you realize is that even though, and this was an exec MBA program, so everyone was coming from different industries. And despite that, everyone was able to figure out something that's, and people, what they needed help with was varying. Sometimes it was something career related. Sometimes it was like, I'm trying to buy a house in this area, so it ran the gamut. And what you would see was that it's like, oh, well, I don't know anything about this person's career. Like, I'm not a doctor. I can't help them with that issue, but I can help them with this. Or, oh, I actually know someone who did that. And you realize that you can make those connections, but only if you start kind of flexing that muscle and realizing that you can. And that's how you can really give back, even when there's and add to that social capital, even when there is kind of a disparity in your perceived powers. So one of the stories I tell in the book is about when I met Senator John Kerry. So I was at the DNC in, I guess, 2012, and I got to be there for some Young Entrepreneurs HuffPost event. And I went into this hotel because I was trying to kind of like regroup, figure out where I was, but I actually went right by security. I was definitely not allowed to be there. And I was loitering by the elevators. And I know I wasn't allowed to be there because the people who walked in right ahead of me were stopped by security and asked to leave, but they were distracted by those people. So I just kept going. Yeah. So I just kept going. And I was loitering by the elevators, kind of looking to see where I was going next. And, John Kerry is coming up and he has this like gaggle of people around him talking about like, oh, I love how you supported Bill S, in some numbers. And he's, having these like polite conversations with people. And then he comes over and exits conversations to wait for the elevators. And I kind of just like look up at him and give like the hello, like the head nod. And the only thing I had to say to him would have been, oh, wow, you're John Kerry. You're really tall. Like, I really had nothing to say. I don't know any Senate bill numbers by heart. Like, that was I didn't have anything to add there. And I was just on my phone. And then he looked at my phone and he complimented my phone case, which is a green monster case. Now, obviously being a politician, he knows how to connect with people. And he found something. He's like, oh, tell me about, I've been thinking about getting an iPhone. Can you tell me about it? And I was like, oh, that's something I do know. I do know really well. I have apps. So he was using a BlackBerry at the time. So we got into this small conversation about the phones. I talked to him about my app. And, it was a very short conversation because then the elevator comes and, he gets in the elevator and I continue loitering. But I don't know if that conversation led into an allusion to me in the evil Coriolis speech, like later during the convention. It might have, I'm not sure. But she did basically mention the apps. And I think that having that, mini conversation, it just showed us like, I knew nothing about like the Senate bill numbers or whatever. But I knew the thing that I knew phone. That was something that he wanted to learn about. And so even in a situation where you're like, oh, I don't have anything to add to this person, you probably do. It might just be trying to figure out how to find it.
From his point of view as well, like I'm sure we've all been in the situation where we've maybe, like if you saw the phone, for instance, I might think in my head, oh, I'd like to learn more about that. But sometimes we don't actually put it into action. Like I just sit in the elevator and just like head nod and then you just go off. So I thought kudos to him for being curious too and asking the question.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Especially because like, I'm sure he was exhausted because like, he's like just constantly, having these conversations. So it might've been refreshing to him that I did not pepper him with questions about different bills. Who knows? Maybe he was just like looking for something else to talk about, but I'm happy to be that for him.